All right.
Okay,
We
Bonnie,
got
you're
that
on.
taken care of. Thank you for that great introduction. I'm always humbled by your kind words. I'm so glad to be here partnering with you in the Southern California branch of IDA to talk about visual processing, decoding, and reading. This is a topic really close to my heart because when I was in the third grade, I didn't read very well. In fact, I not only didn't read as well as my siblings did when they were in the third grade, but I was in the lowest reading group. I was in the Bluebirds, the highest was the Cardinals. Everybody knew that. It was not a good thing. But as a result of that, I slowly climbed out of that group with help from my mom. And I've spent many years researching the best practices for teaching and learning reading, as well as how we learn through auditory, visual, and tactile kinesthetic processing. As a college student many years ago, I took reading methods classes, but they never went into the science of reading in those days or how we learn. As a result, after several years of teaching, I found myself double teaching several aspects of reading to be able to incorporate visual processing and auditory processing into the reading lessons. That's when I saw the real uptick in my students' learning. I knew I had to keep doing that, but I also knew there must be a way to streamline how I taught to get real results faster. So I combined what I was doing into a shorter, more efficient method. And this explicit, systematic, and multisensory approach is designed for parents, teachers, and tutors. So I want you to get ready to see the difference as we explore visual processing skills. Visual processing skills form the basis for reading and spelling. Reading involves decoding, while spelling requires encoding. They really are two sides of the same coin. In this session, you're going to discover the 9 key visual processing skills for efficient reading, 9 warning signs of visual processing issues, a technique to simplify reading acquisition, strategies to enhance visual processing skills for better reading and spelling, and the role that technology now plays in assisting students with visual processing challenges. And I will take questions at the end. And of course, I have some bonuses for you. I, in fact, have 3 bonuses for everyone that I will share with you at the end of the webinar. I know you don't want to miss out on that. Free stuff is always wonderful. So as we get started, again, if you have any questions during the presentation, be sure and enter them into the Q&A or into the chat box. I'll answer them at the end. If we somehow run out of time, I'll answer them and be sure that everyone gets all of the answers. Secondly, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen in to what you can do to improve visual processing, reading, and spelling in just minutes a day. So I got to thinking when I was preparing for this, and I was realizing that I needed to give you a bit of technical information on both learning and on visual processing so that we can really get into the down and dirty of how it applies to learning. And then we're going to wrap up with some specific actionable steps. So I hope that works for everyone. So we're going to go on a journey tonight so that we can learn how we learn efficiently and effectively. This will make it easier for you to help your kids. So I'm going to give you a quick understanding again of how you learn with just a couple of slides. When you do this, you'll see that it's much easier to be helping your kids because you understand what needs to be done. So to begin with, we learn through the senses. No matter what your skill level is or grade level, we all learn through the senses. So let me elaborate on that a little bit. We all have 5 senses: taste, smell, seeing, hearing, and doing. And within each of those, there are subcategories. For example, with taste, we can taste sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. And we often choose according to those unique tastes. For example, potato chips or popcorn for saltiness, ice cream for sweetness, lemons for sour, chocolate can be sweet or bitter. With smell, we can smell a turkey dinner roasting. I can even just think about it and I'm smelling it. Or brownies baking, or bleach and cleaning products, savory, sweet, pungent floral smells. Just like taste and smell have subcategories, there are areas or subcategories in the vision, auditory, and tactile kinesthetic systems too. The vision, auditory, and tactile kinesthetic systems each have 9 specific areas that directly impact learning. There are a total of 27 areas. The visual processing system, the auditory processing system, and the tactile kinesthetic processing system. And these 3 systems are all at the core of learning. They are the foundations of learning. In our program, we have specific daily activities that develop your child's visual, auditory, and tactile kinesthetic areas of processing. When you do this, learning becomes easier. And we do this in a variety of ways within our content lessons, as well as our executive function and brain body activities and our games. These are the specific methods that work, are effective, and efficient. And this is why no matter if you are at grade level, above grade level, or below grade level, your skills improve. Whether you're in kindergarten or 5th grade, 8th grade, even adults. To begin with, visual processing is much more than just seeing. It's the brain's ability to make sense of what eyes are seeing. And you don't have to look further than nature itself to understand how vital that is. Have you ever watched a hawk or an eagle high up in the sky scanning the ground below? These birds have incredibly sharp vision, allowing them to spot tiny movements of potential prey from great heights. This is an example of several areas of visual processing, including visual figure ground and visual discrimination. The ability to spot movements or animals out in nature and the ability to see detail in objects. Both of these are critical skills that help your child focus on the important information and tell the difference between letters and words that look similar, like B's and D's or was and saw. Frogs are experts at catching insects thanks to their fantastic visual processing skills. They'll sit still and patiently wait for the tiny movements of insects, and then with a quick and accurate flick of their tongue, they catch the insect mid-flight. This requires excellent visual tracking skills, the ability to follow moving objects with the eyes. In reading, your child uses these same skills to track the words on a page from left to right and top to bottom. And if you've ever watched a squirrel bury a nut and then return to find it months later, you've witnessed visual memory in action. They'll remember specific visual cues in their environment to help them locate their food stash. Similarly, your child uses visual memory when they remember words and their spelling, enabling them to write words correctly without having to sound out each letter every time. By understanding these natural examples of visual processing, you can appreciate its role in your child's reading and spelling skills. And just like the vision system, the sounds the auditory processing system hears impact us whether they are loud or soft. And when we combine the vision system with the auditory system, they both impact what we do and how we read, as does the tactile kinesthetic system. And just like the hawk, the frog, and the squirrel, with practice and the right support, your child can develop their visual processing abilities to enhance their reading and spelling skills. So let's start with a deep dive into visual processing. Visual processing is the ability to interpret what you see. This involves organization, interpretation, and giving meaning to what is seen. Just like the hawk, the frog, and the squirrel using their vision systems, we give meaning to what is seen. Let's break it down into more familiar terms. Have you ever tried to solve a jigsaw puzzle? You look at the pieces, you study their shapes and colors, you remember the picture on the box or even refer back to it, and then try to fit them together to form the image. That's a simplified example of how visual processing works. Let's think about your child reading a book. When they look at a page, they aren't just seeing squiggles on a white background. Those squiggles or letters are like the pieces of the puzzle. Your child's brain must recognize each letter, the shape, Remember what sound it makes, we can call that the color, and put them together to form words and sentences, the completed puzzle image. This process is essential for successful reading and spelling. Being able to quickly and accurately recognize letters, remember their sounds, and put them together is a skill that can make learning to read much smoother. Again, what is experienced by sight is a visual perceptual event. Pictures, shapes, or lines come into the brain, and we subscribe meaning to them. We make associations with the pictures, shapes, and lines. We classify them. We recognize similarities and differences. We notice the different ways the shapes and lines are put together to make letters and words. Visual processing is the unseen cog in the wheel of learning. It's a vital skill that helps children and adults to decode the world of letters and words, enabling them to become confident readers and spellers. You know, as parents and teachers, it's crucial to know if your child struggles with reading or spelling. It's not always a matter of effort. Your kids may be working really, really hard. And it's not that they're not trying hard, but they might be facing challenges with visual processing or auditory processing or tactile kinesthetic. We're going to be talking about the visual processing areas tonight. Identifying these challenges early on can lead to targeted help and support, making a significant difference in your child's learning journey. So let's go ahead and get into the 9 areas of visual processing. First, I'm going to define what the area is, and then I'll explain what happens if that area is difficult for a student. We have motor, memory, closure, discrimination and form constancy, figure ground, tracking, language association, language classification, and integration. So we're going to start off with the visual motor area. That's the ability to use your eyes and hands together to respond to what you see. It's kind of like playing follow the leader with your eyes and hands. It's all about seeing something and having your hands recreate it just right. If you're taking notes tonight, you are using your visual motor system. Problems here are going to show up when your student has sloppy handwriting, has difficulty taking notes, has difficulty aligning numbers and columns, or avoids writing assignments. Visual discrimination and form constancy. I already mentioned the hawk and his visual discrimination abilities to see details in objects. For us, visual discrimination is the ability to tell the difference between objects, shapes, and words. In other words, what's the same and what's different. It's kind of like playing a game of spot the difference, where you get to pick out the differences between spot and stop, or pat and pot. It's also like having a magic word detector where you can spot the same word hiding in a group of other words. It's all about noticing the little details and picking up on patterns, a true detective work for your eyes. Form constancy is a finer point of visual discrimination. This is where your child or even you need to recognize objects or images when they're facing different directions. In other words, a shoe is a shoe is a shoe is a shoe, no matter what direction it's facing. It's always a shoe. A book is a book is a book. A chair is a chair is a chair. But letters do not always have form constancy. The letters B, D, P, and Q are all the same shape. They just face different directions. So how do you deal with that? Well, we teach the difference with a story and hand movements, giving kids an association, which makes it easier to remember. We also use color coding because just using color coding will improve your retention by 25%. So it's worth doing the color coding. Problems with visual discrimination and form constancy show up when a student reverses letters and or words, for example, B's and D's or was and saw, or reverses letter sequences like in the words left, L-E-F-T, and felt, F-E-L-T. And kids may also transpose number sequences and confuse arithmetic signs. Excuse me. Visual memory. We're going to go back to our friend the squirrel, going back to his stash of food. This skill is like having a little photo album in your mind. Think about that. We all have a photo album in our mind. It allows you to store snapshots of pictures or words you've seen before, even movies of incidences that and places you have been. We have these little videos in our head that we run. You've seen them before, and you can bring them back when you need them, whether it's a cool picture or a tricky word. Problems are going to show up when a student has poor reading comprehension, when they frequently have reading and spelling errors, including letter reversals, when they typically have trouble learning their numbers, the alphabet, the days of the week, colors, and shapes when they were little, when they have trouble remembering and following written directions, when they have a poor recall of facts, and not just facts that they've read, but math facts, dates, historical facts, anything like that. When they read an assignment and they just can't remember what they've read. I learned about that very early on in my first year of teaching. I was an itinerant teacher, learning disability specialist, working at a middle school in the afternoon and an elementary school in the morning. And I had a 7th grader that read a selection aloud to me, and it actually sounded pretty good. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I seeing her? She sounds pretty good. And then I started asking her questions about the selection. And frankly, she looked at me like I was a crazy lady. She had no idea of what she had read. She was just doing what we call word calling. She couldn't answer any of my questions. She had severe visual memory difficulties. Visual tracking. I mentioned visual tracking earlier with our friend the frog. Frogs will sit still patiently watching those tiny movements of insects and then go after them with a quick flick of their tongue. Well, we use our visual tracking skills when we keep our eye on the ball in sports. In reading, visual tracking is all about how well your eyes can smoothly move across a page, just like a race car speeding on a track. It helps you do things faster, like reading a word, a sentence, a paragraph, or even a selection. It's an eye muscle workout that makes reading quicker and more enjoyable. So what does this look like? Well, I want you to make a fist with one of your hands and pretend that fist is your eyeball. Now, it's not floating in space. It's got muscles that make it move. Muscles are surrounding it. And when your muscles move your eyeballs efficiently, they have nice, smooth, even movements. This makes reading easier and more fluent. If your eye muscles are not moving your eyeball efficiently, you're liable to be missing bits and pieces of what you read. But when they do work well, you comprehend better because you haven't accidentally skipped an important word or concept. Your child uses these visual tracking skills to track the words on a page from left to right and top to bottom. Problems will occur, as I just alluded to, if your child skips, repeats, or omits words when reading aloud, if they skip a line when reading, if they have poor reading comprehension because they've missed those bits and pieces while they were reading, if they have trouble finding specific words or items on a page, if they avoid or dislike reading aloud. Visual figure ground. Again, think of the hawk looking for food here. The ability to focus on the star of the show with a thing that you're looking for and not get distracted by all the extras in the background. It's kind of like playing a lively game of I Spy. In other words, spotting a hidden image in a busy picture or finding a word in a word search among a jumble of letters. This skill helps you keep your eyes on the prize no matter how much is going on around it. It's like having a special set of binoculars that can zero in on the important things in a big, bustling crowd of details. Problems here will lead to difficulties finding specific words or items on a page or scanning text for relevant information. Having difficulty with matching items from one side of the page to another. Having difficulty putting puzzles together. Having a hard time reading maps. Visual closure. This is the ability to recognize or identify a whole image when only partial or limited information about the image is available. This means that you can fill in the blanks and complete a picture or understand a whole concept from just a few clues. For example, a horse is inside that barn. And this is an airplane. And like magic, you can transform C-A-T into cat. And you can connect scattered dots to reveal a hidden image. It's like having a magical ability to see the complete picture, even when some parts are missing. This is an important skill for reading and other activities that require quick interpretation of visual information. Problems here will lead to difficulties with fill-in-the-blank answers, such as completing words, misreading information, trouble finding specific words or items on a page, trouble filling in the gaps when the student misses parts of words or sentences. Visual language association. This is the ability to associate objects with each other that are presented visually. Visual language association is like being a great detective at a picture party. It's all about connecting the dots and figuring out which images go best together. You need to be able to make associations, see a relationship between one item and another before you can group it into a classification. For example, if you see a picture of a paddle, what other image would you pair it with? A car or a canoe? This relationship would then lead you to understand that paddles are items that would be associated with canoes. You can even think of other items that you would associate with a canoe, such as a life jacket. This fun skill is like putting together a visual puzzle, creating links between pictures, words, or ideas to help make sense of a story. It's an important part of reading and understanding the world around us. It's the beginnings of reading comprehension, making associations. Problems with making visual associations, those visual connections, show up when a student has poor reading comprehension, a poor grasp of abstract concepts, or trouble with open-ended questions, or even difficulty with word problems. Visual language classification is the next step. It's the ability to sort and/or arrange objects, images, letters, and words into different groups or categories based on their features or similarities. This is taking your ability to associate items to the next level. For example, given a list of words, how would you categorize them? Bananas, oranges, pineapples, grapes. Carrots, lettuce, onions, beans. Well, the fruit would be the bananas, oranges, pineapples, and grapes. And vegetables would be the carrots, lettuce, onions, and beans. So where would you place broccoli? Where would you place apples? When you classify things, it's helping you to understand your language within the world. Visual language classification is one of our aids in long-term comprehension. When we are able to classify items, we are more apt to remember them as we have made connections in our mind. Visual classification problems show up in a similar way to those with language association problems, but in addition to those areas, students will also have difficulties identifying and verbalizing concepts. When given a visual list, it might be difficult to classify where the item on the list would belong, or even which order it would belong. It might be difficult to make connections while taking notes from an oral presentation, drawing arrows, this goes with this, and so on, or numbering 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, number 4 should actually be up there in number 3's position. Difficulties with holding 2 or more concepts in relationship to each other. Both visual language association and classification, again, really get into understanding the relationships of images and words in the world. You can think about a game of sorting. Can you pick out which pictures or words you'd see at home, at school, or at a soccer game? It's a bit like being a super smart detective, figuring out where everything fits in our everyday life. And as we do this, our comprehension increases. Pretty cool, right? And our last area is visual integration. This is the ability to combine all of the areas of the visual system together to gain meaning from visual stimuli. Visual integration is like being the master of the jigsaw puzzle. It's all about getting different parts of your vision to work together, like puzzle pieces coming together to make a complete picture. So when your eyes spot something, this handy skill helps you piece together all the visual clues to make sense of what you're seeing. Problems here will lead to a decreased ability to get information from what is seen. You might have difficulty learning the connection between letters and sounds, poor comprehension, and or trouble summarizing. So we want to move on to visual processing, the impact on reading and spelling. And as we get into visual processing and reading, we must be aware of the 5 principles to teaching reading, as they also encompass teaching spelling. Phonemic awareness is your ability to manipulate sounds and language. Phonics and spelling is your ability to match sounds to the letters. This process combines visual processing with auditory processing. Fluency, your speed or rate of reading without conscious attention to the mechanics of reading. Vocabulary, that's your word knowledge and factual knowledge base. Comprehension, your ability to understand, analyze, and synthesize and use what you have read. These principles, again, involve both auditory and visual processing. So let's think about, how does visual processing develop? There is a specific continuum. You'll notice that these skills are present in learning to decode as well as encode. About 40% of the human brain is involved in one form or another with visual perception. There are 4 specific steps, and you do have the slide in the handout, so I'm going to kind of go quickly through the steps. Step 1 is visual awareness, which includes attention and figure ground. Step 2, visual discrimination, of course, includes discrimination and form constancy, as well as the alphabetic principle, the sound-symbol relationship. Step 3, visual identification, which includes association and classification and visual motor areas. And step 4, visual comprehension, which includes visual closure, mapping, and comprehension. So that being said, let's dive further into applying those visual processing skills. Remember, they are foundational skills to reading. We start with phonemic awareness and then add in phonics, the alphabetic principle, also known as auditory visual integration. Phonemic awareness is the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate the individual sounds, the phonemes. The most important forms of phonemic awareness to teach are blending and segmentation. We start with phoneme blending, listening to individual sounds and then combining them to form the word. For example, d, a, g would be the word dog. So I'm listening to the sounds, I'm pulling those sounds together and saying the word. The next step is segmenting words, listening to a word and then breaking it up into its individual sounds, its phonemes. Fish, f, I, sh. There are 3 individual sounds, 3 phonemes in the word fish. Then we're going to add visual processing into the mix, going from phoneme blending to grapheme mapping. We start with the auditory component and then add in the visual component. In other words, going from phonemic awareness to phonics, matching sounds to the letter symbols that represent them. Again, this is the alphabetic principle, auditory visual integration. The beginning of this is to be able to match a word that is given orally to the picture of it. Then we match a word that is given orally to the written word. And as we get further into this, notice how these skills are impacted by multiple areas of visual processing. Visual figure ground, visual discrimination, visual closure, visual memory, auditory visual integration, and visual integration are all involved with this. Visual processing, phoneme-grapheme mapping. If I give the sound f, I can think, oh, I can represent that as an F, as an FF, as a PH, or a GH. All four graphemes will map to that phoneme. We have examples in the words fan, off, phone, and graph. So being able to decode words quickly and accurately depends on the student's knowledge of phoneme-grapheme correspondence. Phoneme-grapheme mapping is where you break a spoken word into its separate phonemes. K, a, t. 3 sounds, 3 letters. You can start with using blocks as grapheme placeholders, and after that, substitute in the letters, the graphemes that represent the sounds. And we do a simplified version of all of this blending and grapheme mapping in our spelling program, the spelling part of our program. So let's take a look at how this process works. First, we see the word. Then we sound it out. S, at. Then we blend it together. Sat. And as we get more proficient, we can see the word and just blend it together. Say it. Sat. Children use this process when they see words, sounding out the graphemes and then blending them together. Phonemic awareness instruction can help preschoolers, kindergartners, first graders, and older, less able readers. And additionally, all students, no matter their age, use these skills when they come upon a complicated word that they are unfamiliar with. Again, the most important forms of phonemic awareness are blending and segmentation. They are the processes that are centrally involved in reading and spelling words. It's critical to show the letters the visual representation when hearing the sounds, when teaching reading and spelling. This is a reciprocal relationship between auditory processing and visual processing. Phonemic awareness helps students learn to read and spell, and working the letter-sound relationships, visual mapping improves children's phonemic awareness. The secret sauce, combining auditory processing with visual processing. By adding in the visual component, the graphemes, you are able to see the patterns. This gives additional cues for decoding quickly. So let's see how this works. Visual word families help children learn to read and spell. Cat, pat, sat, and that. What is the same? What is different? Notice the endings of the words. They're all the same, and they rhyme, and they all are giving the short A sound. And in this list, bake, cake, lake, take. What is the same? What is different? They all rhyme. The beginning sounds are all different, but the endings are all the same, and they all give the long A sound. Let's look at another example. Pen, pep, pet, fib, fit, fix, sad, sap, sat. Well, gosh, none of those rhymed. The endings aren't the same, but the beginnings in each column are the same. P-E, 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 F-I, 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 S-A, 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 And golly, they all had short sounds, didn't they? So combining the visual processing with auditory processing makes it easier to decode words. So let's move on to step 4, reading the foundation of learning, where we get more into the methods to incorporate visual processing skills. There is a systematic process to teach reading and spelling. This is the science of reading. And as we get into the science of reading, let's look at the evidence. Snow, Griffin, and Burns state spelling and reading build and rely on the same mental representation of a word. Knowing the spelling of a word makes the representation of it sturdy and accessible for fluent reading. Airy and Snowling found that the ability to read words by sight automatically rests on the ability to map letters and letter combinations to sounds. So how do you do this? Well, we help you teach your kids in a step-by-step manner that makes reading easy. We follow the science of reading. So when choosing a reading program, you want to be sure to choose one that is research-based and results-proven, step-by-step program that includes all 5 principles of reading, as they are critical for reading and spelling success. We do this with our alternating schedules of daily work, and we include step-by-step multisensory activities in our program and then add in a few extra activities to round out learning. Here's what one parent had to say. Oh, you notice here that we've got reading fluency, reading and taking notes. We've got phonics and spelling. So we are covering our bases here. Within those, we also have vocabulary and comprehension. The program helped my son with dyslexia a lot for reading fluency. Nothing else had helped. It was like a game for him, and we called it his brain activity. Very happy and totally recommend it. So let's bring it all together. The foundation of reading is built upon phonemic awareness and phonics, reading fluency, how quickly and accurately you read, vocabulary, your knowledge base, and comprehension, or how well you understand what you read. We've already seen how visual processing impacts reading and spelling when we looked at the rhyming words. Let's continue on to see the process to use to improve visual processing skills as well as spelling skills. Then we'll move on to improving both decoding and comprehension skills. Phonemic awareness helps you to identify sounds correctly, and phonics connects the sounds to the letters, the graphemes that they represent. All 9 areas of visual processing impact phonemic awareness and phonics. Spelling is the inverse of reading. Reading is decoding words or sounding them out, whereas spelling is encoding words or putting letters together to form words. Spelling is based on auditory sounds and visual symbols, the graphemes, the letters that represent them. Spelling is systematic. You can learn the formula to spelling. You can learn why we spell words the way we do. Louisa Moats states in her article, How Spelling Supports Reading, that the nature of the English language's spelling and writing system provides reason to believe that there would be significant benefits to older students to continue spelling instruction. That's why we teach spelling in a visual, auditory, tactile way with spelling patterns to all levels, whether you're in kindergarten, 5th grade, or 8th grade, and beyond. So I have a question for you. I want you to either shake your head or give a thumbs up if this has ever happened to you. When you were growing up, did you ever get a list of spelling words from your teacher that had no rhyme or reason to it? How hard was it for you to memorize how to spell all of those words? I sure remember those lists. And they're still happening today. This is far too often the case in school. So we use a method that is visual, auditory, and tactile kinesthetic. Each week we go through a set of 10 words according to their spelling patterns. We always pair the auditory with the visual and tactile kinesthetic learning. And this way kids are able to identify and associate sounds with the letters that represent them and then categorize them by spelling patterns. And you can do this too. Let me show you what I mean. What does that say? Is there any meaning there? Not that I know of. What if I were to do this? Ah, we have the word cat. Cot. Cut. By adding a vowel in between the consonants, we have words. And all of these words are in what we call the vowel consonant pattern. The vowels all give their short sound. The vowels are the stars of the words. They give voice to the words. They give pizzazz to the words. We recognize that without a vowel, all you have is consonants stuck next to each other with no meaning. And the vowel pattern always, always, always starts with the first vowel in the word. You can have no beginning consonant sound and have the vowel pattern start immediately. You can have one beginning consonant sound in the word cat. You can have two beginning consonant sounds and then the vowel pattern in the word stop. You can even have three beginning consonant sounds and your vowel pattern in the word strip. And spelling patterns work in multisyllable words too. Beginning consonant, vowel pattern, beginning consonant, vowel pattern. And in Robin, again, the vowel pattern starts with the first vowel. So we have beginning consonant, vowel pattern, and then vowel pattern. Altogether, we have 8 spelling patterns. The vowel consonant, your short vowels, vowel consonant silent E, vowel vowels where 2 vowels come together to make a new sound, vowel plus an R, that's your R control vowels, vowel plus an L, vowel accent, vowel plus NG and vowel plus NK, those both give the twangs to the vowels, and vowel plus AW. For our spelling lessons, we give a sound at a time so your child can identify which sounds are represented by which letters. We always pair the auditory input with the visual input. This combines phonemic awareness and phonics with visual processing and auditory processing. We give your kids the formula to English and teach why we spell words the way we do. In fact, over 90% of words follow the spelling patterns. We teach each pattern with story explanation so kids will have an association, they'll remember it, with which to remember the patterns. We learn and retain information through associations and classifications. I start everyone with the vowel consonant pattern, no matter what their age. The difference in each level is the length and complexity of the words. So if you are a younger student and just learned the first pattern, obviously we teach the pattern first, the vowel consonant pattern, your lesson could start out like this. Write the letter that represents this sound. And I would give time for them to write the letter, and then they can check. They got it. Write the letter that represents this sound. Ah. And write the letter that represents this sound. T. Pull those sounds together, and what do you have? Cot. And what pattern is it? The vowel consonant pattern. One vowel followed by a consonant. And we write that underneath because it reinforces the classification, the category of vowel sounds the word is giving. Again, vowels are the star of the word, and they can give different sounds according to their vowel pattern. Kit in the vowel consonant pattern, bake, vowel consonant silent E, rain, vowel vowel, arm, vowel plus an R, doll, vowel plus an L, no, vowel accent, sung and thank, vowel plus NG and NK, and law. That being said, most programs teach spelling with 30 spelling rules, and I find it much easier to teach the structure of the language as there are only 8 spelling patterns to learn. Learning the 8 patterns is much easier for all students to learn. And over the years, I've had so many students that had either visual memory problems or auditory memory problems or both, that for them to memorize 30 spelling rules was really setting them up for failure. But teaching the structure of the language, the 8 patterns, was so much easier. And that's when I started setting them up for spelling success. The English language does have a structure. There are 8 primary spelling patterns. We use visual and auditory processing skills along with the structure of the language to learn how to spell. And when you learn how to use the patterns, you can spell tens of thousands of words. So again, teaching spelling, phonemic awareness, and phonics in this way improves all 9 areas of visual processing skills and 9 areas of auditory processing skills, and helps the kids see the connections between sounds and the letters they represent. So what does this look like? We teach with video lessons. This is one of our younger students. We give a sound at a time, and they write down the sound, and they check with the video to see if they got them. Then they pull the sounds together and say the word, and then they'll write the pattern. One of the benefits of the video lessons is that they can be paused as well as reviewed multiple times. There are a variety of spelling activities for each age group in addition to the video lessons that encompass a variety of visual processing puzzles, activities, and card games. And here's some pictures of an older student's worksheets. And a few slides from our lessons for older students' videos. You'll notice more complicated words as well as the specially designed test sheet. Kids do their test along with the video. The videos made all the difference in the world. The spelling videos showed me step by step the structure. You really made spelling easy for my kids. So how do we bring all this together? We've talked about spelling. Let's get into reading fluency. That's decoding words, being able to correctly sound out and pronounce the written words quickly. When students decode words with ease, they become fluent readers. Fluency is the ability to read smoothly and quickly from left to right. Good readers can read words automatically without having to sound out each syllable, also known as decoding. In other words, you don't have to spend a lot of effort and attention on the mechanics of reading. Reading becomes easy. There is a key link between fluency and comprehension. Fluency is not generally taught in school, and oral reading fluency norms continually raise the expected words per minute rate. So what are the current words per minute rates for students? And you do have this slide. First graders in the spring should be reading from 40 to 80 words per minute. Third graders from 115 to 140 words per minute. Sixth graders 160 to 200 words per minute. And eighth graders 180 to 220 words per minute. And we have a free reading screen where you'll be able to see exactly where your kids are at the end of the presentation. I'll tell you how to get that for free. So how do we apply this knowledge? Our solution is part of our Scholar Within Reading and Spelling program. But before I show you that, I want to remind you that the reading fluency training, there is a way to train your eye muscles to read more smoothly. You're going to use drills that are sequential, phonics-based, and include every vowel and consonant combination in the English language. If you're not doing something that's in a sequential manner that includes all of the sounds and consonant combinations, it's going to make it more difficult for your kids in the long run. So we have a daily 5-minute fluency exercise where kids see their progress on a daily basis. Our drills are research-based, and again, they train your eye muscles to read more smoothly. Just like in sports, when you want to improve your practice, you practice your skills, whether it's basketball, soccer, or any other sport. My grandson was in a soccer camp this summer, and when he wasn't in camp, he was practicing because he wanted to get better. This is what the first reading drill looks like. I want you to notice how the letters are separated out a bit for each word. They're not right next to each other. The student needs to be able to pull the letters together and say the words. This is one of our visual closure activities. Additionally, this activity also improves visual tracking, visual discrimination, and form constancy, as well as visual memory. You can also see the student, we chart their progress on a daily basis, started at 27 words per minute, and on his third day was at 42 words per minute. Students typically do see their words per minute go up daily and their mistakes per minute go down, again, almost on a daily basis. And one of the really cool things about this is that fluency actually improves comprehension. Cecil Mercer et al. Did a study in 2010 that showed that daily 5 to 6 minute fluency intervention focusing on phonics and oral reading significantly improved reading level and reading rate. And I'll often have parents say, and not as frequently teachers, but once in a while, well, can't we do it, say, 30 minutes once a week, and that'll work? And I say, well, not really. It'll help a little bit, but it's daily or 2 or 3 times a week. The more frequently you do it on a shorter time frame, the more your reading fluency will improve. So the studies show 5 to 6 minute fluency intervention is all it takes. And here's some results. So you can see grades 1 through 3, 4 through 6, and 7th and 8th. The blue is 3 to 6 months progress. The yellow is 6 to 12 months, and the red is 12 to 24 months. So what happens with your kids when they come upon a word that they're not familiar with? Mom, can you help me say this word? I don't know what it is. And you're in the middle of making dinner, and it's like you can't very well leave what you're doing. It's liable to boil over. There is a way to help with this instead of having your kids stopped in their tracks. We have tap to read technology. Of course, we first encourage kids to sound out the words because that's the most critical piece. But if they're still having trouble, you can use the tap to read technology. And one of the beauties with this is that you can increase the font size, you can decrease the font size, you can increase or decrease the speed of reading. So if you are just sounding things out, you might have it very slow.
Aspens.
And you can even read along with the whole
Aspens are very
selection.
unusual trees.
Now I can speed it up.
Their most amazing trait can't be seen because it's under.
And you'll notice that we have highlighted the whole sentence as well as the individual word that we are reading, and you can read along with this. So you can read the whole passage with the technology, which is a neural impress reading process, which does speed up their fluency as well as comprehension skills, and they can increase their speed and go faster.
Underground. Aspens are the most widespread tree in America.
And even faster. So tap to read technology helps you to link sound with the written form of the word in your mind. In other words, listening to a word while reading it helps your brain make connections. And if you have a word that you really have no idea how to pronounce, you just click on it.
Photosynthesize. Deciduous.
So you can read the selection on your own and then just click on a word if you're not sure how to pronounce it. When you hear the word again, you'll know how to spell it, and when you see it written down, you'll know how to pronounce it correctly. This makes the word easier to remember and use in the future. So adding in the tap to read technology improves visual tracking, visual discrimination, visual closure, as well as decoding and comprehension in one fell swoop. So it is pretty darn cool. Now let's see if I can get back to my where I needed to be here. There we go. So let's continue with our bringing it all together. And this time we're going to be talking about reading comprehension. We always suggest doing 2 reading selections per week. And our program does include 2 reading selections at your kids' reading level. The reading selections are there to not only encourage and help build reading skills, but also to build background knowledge on topics that students should know something about. So when you're picking reading selections for your kids, think about that. You want to be also building background knowledge. That is a key piece to building comprehension skills. So you want to be sure and include fiction, nonfiction, literature, and poetry. And that's what we do in our program. The larger background knowledge base you have, the easier it is for you to comprehend what you read, because you're able to make connections with what you have read and experienced before with what you are currently reading. So we're making those associations and connections. One of the best ways to ensure comprehension is to include writing, because writing helps us to become good at thinking. I always like to say writing is the doing part of thinking, because you cannot write without thinking. And so we use a variety of graphic organizers to help our kids take notes, and that helps improve their visual memory skills of what they've read, which does improve comprehension. We then follow up with comprehension questions a day or 2 after doing the reading selections. If you do the questions right after reading and taking notes, the kids invariably get them right because they just did it. The key is, can they retain the information and do well on the questions a day or 2 after? This helps to build longer-term memory skills. And our last area, vocabulary, yes, even with vocabulary, we incorporate visual and auditory processing skills. We have vocabulary on our reading selections to help out with vocabulary skills, and we play games. And the action of playing games actually is working on their auditory and visual processing skills, their decoding skills, their spelling skills, the vocabulary skills, and whether they know their antonyms and synonyms, all of that, comprehension skills, while they play. Each level of our program has a variety of word attack and vocabulary card games. So we've gone on our journey from A to B, how we learn, a deep dive into the 9 areas of visual processing, the impact visual processing has on reading and spelling, and reading being the foundation of learning. And we brought it all together with step-by-step methods that incorporated visual processing skills in the methods that we use to teach and learn spelling and reading skills. And again, these are all life skills. So I just want to show you very quickly what that looks like. This is on our membership program. Across the top, it shows your daily activities with an estimated time frame for doing those. Each day of the week, there are different activities. Let me click on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. And we have all of the materials that you need, as well as a lot of video lessons, and all of the spelling lessons are on video. Mary M. says, we love the reading and spelling program. My daughter has not only increased her words per minute, but also has expanded her comprehension. She is learning valuable note-taking strategies and has drastically improved her spelling. She also enjoys the content. We're excited to see her growth. And Amy says, my daughter is begging me to do your reading program again to strengthen her skills. The guides for note-taking and how to pick out important information was only second to the fun activities each day last year. We look forward to seeing what's in store for this year. And so I hope you've gotten something out of this, learned how visual processing impacts learning, and learned some new techniques. And always pair visual processing with the auditory processing, and have seen the possibilities that instruction that emphasizes the area of visual processing can make a real difference to your students. And for those that have hung in there with me, I do have several gifts for you, and then we'll answer the questions that have come in. We have a free reading screen, a free reading fluency drill, and free how to learn to spell best practices guide. And you can get that by going to scholarwithin.com/IDA. And I believe this information is on your handouts. You can try the tap to read out at scholarwithin.com/read aloud. And for those of you that wish to join us, we do have a special for new members. They'll get $15 off with the promo code IDA-SoCal. Current members, email us to get a free daily planner. And that is valid until Sunday at midnight. And I'll just show you on our website. We have both the reading and spelling program and just the spelling program. You just click how many children. And we have a monthly membership, a 6-month membership, and a yearly membership. I need to get, here we go. So let's go ahead and go through questions. And as you're queuing those up, Regina, I want to be sure and thank you and the Southern California Tri-Counties branch of IDA for sponsoring this. Again, your free reading screen, free reading fluency drill, and how to learn to spell best practices guide is available at scholarwithin.com/IDA.
Okay, we have so far 4 questions.
Okay. So it means
Rita?
I can think and come up with 4 answers.
Rita Santos says, how would a tutor who meets with a student 1 to 2 times a week use this program?
I would be doing it twice a week. We incorporate, typically the daily activities take about 35-40 minutes. And so what I would do is I would do the Monday, Tuesday activities in one day and the Wednesday, Thursday activities in one day. And Friday, we typically call game day. It's a much lighter day. The other thing is that they can have the kids practice their reading fluency drill at home and come in so that they are doing it on the days that you're not seeing them. Does that make sense?
Does that make sense, Rita? I don't see her. Well, she's not answering. Okay.
Yes, it does. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute.
Oh, okay. Good. Thank you, Rita. Okay.
Thank you.
Next question is from Julie Brown. I'm a reading interventionist trained in Orton Gillingham. I see my students online, most of them once a week. How can I adapt this? Thank you.
Well, there's a variety of different things that you can do with it. Again, with my students that we just see once a week, I typically give them some things to be working on a couple of the other days, not a lot of work with, and things that don't take much guidance, such as the reading fluency portion is real easy. I would also, and the reading and taking notes, there's certain parts of things. Once the kids learn how to do things, they can be pretty darn independent. Kids at kindergarten, first and second grade need, more guidance, obviously, but as kids get older, they're really quite independent. And even once kids take notes, I would have them take a picture of it and send it to you, and you can make comments on it. We even do that here with our students because we're doing everything online now. We just sent comments back to some students a couple days ago. And so, you know, that's doable. Again, we rotate through. We include executive function and brain body activities in the program, and you can have them do those are activities that you can do in the backyard, down at the park. You know, they're fun activities that kids can do at home with their siblings or parents that will again help improve their overall reading and spelling skills. You know, it's
Awesome.
all interconnected. And so that's why we had, I showed the slide of a mom and son towards the beginning of the presentation that were out at a park doing an activity.
Cool. Cool. Okay. Next question from Michelle Parrish. I have a struggling reader going into first grade. He attends a full-time school in person. Do you have a program we could do at home to supplement his full day of learning but not replace it? 40 to 60 minutes a day may not be possible for us.
Well, I always say to parents, is again, it seems to be daunting, you know, like, oh my gosh. But as long as you're doing a little bit every day, even if it's 10 to 15 minutes, you don't have to do all the activities in one fell swoop either. Let me see if I can get back to the slide. Because some of the activities only take 5 minutes, or we say we're going to do this activity here. It's going to take 5 minutes, and this activity is going to take 10 minutes, and you know, then we're going to be done. You can do 5 minutes now and 10 or 15 minutes later. It doesn't have to be all done in one fell swoop. I know that can be really hard with kids at home. I know that really well. I've got 3 grandkids, and I know it can be very difficult at times. It's like, oh my gosh. But and I always say, don't worry about playing catch up. You know, it's like, okay, we have a free afternoon. We're going to catch up and do all that. It's like, no, just pick up where you left off the last day. So that if you did, you know, 2 or 3 of the activities, we try to do the reading fluency as frequently as possible, but that activity really only takes 5 minutes. The first week is kind of a learning curve. The first week things take a little bit longer because you're learning the system. But every Monday we do the same activities with, you know, different content. Every Tuesday is the same kinds of activities. Every Wednesday it's the same kinds of activities. We're just rotating through the week. And so you know, I always say don't stress. And with some students, especially the little ones, say for example, with the spelling, we do have 10 spelling words. But what I say is, you know, it's fine, perfectly fine to take 2 weeks to do that lesson. We're just going to do 5 words this week, and we'll do the next 5 the next week. So we're going to do it over a 2-week period of time.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
You know, and it really reduces the stress. And oh
Absolutely.
gosh, they're out, you know, they're sick. We're not getting to it. What do we do? Or we're, you know, we have a family, you know, they're at summer camp. I mean, you name it, you know, our family is having a reunion, whatever. I've seen it all, heard it all. And it's like, it's fine. You let us know. We can pause you and then you start back up. You know, the thing is, it's not a relay race. You know, there's no race involved here. You know, the bottom line is we want to help you improve your skills. How can you do it in a much faster time frame than if you don't do anything at all, or if you're doing the wrong stuff? And I have a little story about that in a minute. And so we're just going to keep at it. And so if we're going to just do 15 minutes a day, you can set a timer. You know, there's a thing called visual timers. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but if you go into Google it or go into Amazon, it's a timer that has this big red swath. And actually, let me.
Okay, we have 9 more questions, so let's get to the next one.
Okay. So anyway, look up visual timers, and that helps. And you only have to hold it together for that amount of time, and we're done. And you can take breaks too.
Okay.
You know.
So Kathy Dice has said, I signed my 2 grandsons up to use this summer I guess, use your program. I used it some as I live in another town from them. They will continue this fall. It's so well planned. Thank you, from Kathy D.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's a nice comment, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Okay, from Daniela Tauma. If I already bought a 6-week summer program, do I need to start in the first drills and patterns again if I want to make a longer program?
It seems to me you let us know, you remind us that you already did the 6-week, and we should be able to get you. I don't do it. I have other people that will do it, and I know one of them is on, and he's going, "Oh no, you're making more work for me." We can work it out so that you should be able to, start with the next set, where you left off, basically. I know.
Okay, that's really accommodating the
I mean,
tutor
well,
and the student.
and I say this to people all the time, and I'm sure they kind of scratch their heads, but all of my students are like more kids of mine. I have a lot of kids, and I have kids now that have not only have their own kids, but have their own grandkids. And I'm like, oh man, you're making me feel old here. But
it happens sometimes, doesn't it?
I do have a stake in your child. I have a stake in your family. I have a stake in your future. And I want to be sure that you're succeeding. And so, that's what we all do here at Scholar Within. We all have a stake in you, and we want to be sure that you're successful. Whether you're a parent or you're a tutor or you're a teacher, we want to be sure, and, we really bend over backwards to make sure things are going well for you.
And that's part of what's great about the program. Okay, Elena Varenchuk asks, is the parent supposed to be involved, or can the child do it independently?
For the reading fluency portion, they need to be involved, and that's just 5 minutes a day. For the younger kids, you do want to have parent involvement because it's going to be more difficult for the kids to do on their own. As kids get older, they can do quite a bit on their own, but it is always a good thing to just kind of periodically check over their notes to be sure that they're doing a good job. Like I say, we had to periodically have parents send in kids' notes because they're not sure. We will be posting very shortly, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, kind of like the cheat sheet, so that you have answer sheets for the note taking, so you can kind of compare, oh, you really should have included more things, that kind of thing. But
cool.
Everything else is, we do have the answer sheets and all of that available, so that you.
That sounds like a very complete program. I really like when you put up the secret sauce, combining auditory processing and visual processing and phonemic awareness, and the way you showed it.
Yeah,
I think that's so fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Teachers.
Yeah, people don't seem to, it's kind of, there's a disconnect, and it's like, we need to have that connection to really make a difference.
Jennifer Campbell says, is this program something parents teach, or does the child come into an office for this?
No, it's all online, just like you see right here. And so you at the top, it's I don't know if I can, hopefully you can see my mouse here. I'm running around. This, I have multiple students. Let me go over here. Your child's name would appear at the top. So this here would just be the first graders' work, so they're not seeing too many things to choose from. So with the lower levels, the kindergarten and first grade, we have a track A and a track B, depending upon where you're at. Once you're in second grade, we just have one track. I'll show you at sixth grade here. And so you have, this is Wednesday, let me go to Monday. So you have your reading selection. Your reading selection here, and your note-taking skills. So you click over to here with the reading selection. And then you have your note-taking form that you download and print, or you can order print materials. We do have print materials available. And then we have tips on how to find the main idea and detail so that you know what you're looking for. What are the important things I should pay attention to? What are the kinds of things I should be taking notes on? And so that's a way
Okay,
to check.
we keep collecting more questions, which is great. Okay, Samantha says, my child has a diagnosed visual processing disorder. We went through a year of vision therapy, but reading didn't improve much. What are your thoughts?
That happens a lot. And one of the things that's quite interesting, because I became an assistant vision therapist actually at one point. Oh goodness, I'm going back. Oh my, over 20 years ago, a long time ago, because one of my kids had visual processing difficulties. And part of what happens is they can make, some good progress and then you stop. And about 20% of kids kind of fall back some. But if you continue on with doing, and one of the things that is crucial for it is the fluency portion of the program. I mean, we do have a lot of other visual processing puzzles and activities in the program, but this one is just amazing. And you stick with this for a longer period of time. And when we've done that, I've noticed that kids do not regress. So it's
Oh, that's great.
and I've been doing this, like I say, for decades. And when we didn't do it long enough, it's kind of like you're climbing a mountain. It's so funny. I speak with my hands, and my hands going up the mountain, and I'm almost to the top, but I don't quite get to the top and over the crest. And so I slide back down. But if I keep going and practicing more for a longer period, it's not more per day. It's just a longer time frame, on a daily or 2 to 3 times a week basis. Get over it, then you're going to stay. It'll stick.
And staying is good. Staying is really
Exactly.
good.
So,
Okay,
we work really hard.
Elena Verenchek asked a really long question. My daughter's dyslexia is characterized by visual difficulties and slower processing speed. Her phonemic awareness is fine. She actually knows the 30 spelling rules, but she struggles with remembering words spelling, even when she has encountered the word hundreds of times and knows the rules for its spelling. Her curriculum is a spin-off Orton Gillingham. I feel usual approach to dyslexia with phonemic awareness and phonograms teaching, while was helpful in general, is not something she needs. How can your program help with her visual processing difficulties?
I think it's because we really work on specific activities that are going to be addressing the visual processing. Especially the fluency portion. But like I say, even in the spelling lessons, we've got visual processing puzzles. And in the brain body activities, we've got visual processing activities. In the executive function piece, we have visual processing in there. In everything that we do, we've incorporated the visual processing. And that's at most OG programs, I don't do that. And they do a lot more of the phonemic awareness part without necessarily, they're really focusing more on the auditory aspect without as much with the visual input.
Right. And you need both. You actually
Yes.
need all three parts.
Yes. Yeah.
Carolyn
There's a
made a
program
comment.
that's
She said,
really
thank you. This
what
is
they
so
would do.
helpful.
Oh,
And then
you're welcome.
Elena says, thank you with 3 exclamation points.
Thank you.
Then Missy says, the flinch drills have really helped my students. When I start again this year, should I go back to the beginning or pick up where we left off?
I would go back at least a couple of them. I wouldn't necessarily go back all the way to the beginning unless they're really, really rusty. I would go back maybe 3 or 4 just to, as a review to get you going, and then you should be fine.
Okay, that's a good idea. Vivian, I can't understand your question. So I think you mean do you have any online webinar tutor that includes all the activities?
Well, I teach all of the lessons online. I do all the video lessons, and I'm teaching every spelling lesson, so you don't have to do it. The kids watch the videos,
Yeah, that's really good.
and
Okay. Rhonda says, will it be hard for a child to do the spelling in the program plus spelling words at school?
No, because and now I've got to switch sides again, because they're learning how everything is constructed. And so as they learn, should have started this at a different spot. As they learn, what they're going to be able to do is start putting the patterns under their current word list and even organizing their current word list according to pattern.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
And it makes it like,
Diane?
oh, I see the connection. Oh,
Yeah, we want them to see the connection. They have to look for patterns.
and there's specific activities in every week in the spelling that helps you to do that.
Okay, we have less than 5 minutes, so I'm kind of trying to hurry. Diane says, will we receive a certificate of attendance? Yes, it will be on the webinar, on the website, when the webinar is put on the website, and it'll be in the handout section. Okay, Rita says, would I need to get different levels of the program if I am tutoring students in different grades?
You can sign up for up to 4 kids in each account and pick different reading levels according to that. And so you would have access to all 4, like I was showing you a minute ago on the
Okay, so that ends all the questions that we have. We finished it in time.
Oh, good. Good.
So,
Yeah,
and you know what, Terry?
You get $15 off either the first month, or if you do a 6-month, or if you do the yearly membership, you get $15 off with promo code IDA SoCal.
Okay, and you know what, Bonnie? All of these questions that were asked, because we're using GoToWebinar, they will be in the question section in GoToWebinar, and I will send that to you when I get it.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah, it usually is. People like that because they like to review the questions because some of them are really, really good. So I want to thank everybody for coming, for participating, for giving us your time, and for asking the questions. And I particularly want to thank, whoa, it just keeps changing.
I'm trying to get to my thank you to you, and I'm not finding it. Here we go.
Okay, and I really want to thank Bonnie for sharing this webinar. It was great. It was well done, and you have super explanations for all the different parts of the program.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
And again,
so thank you, everybody. We appreciate all of your attention, and we appreciate you coming.
And that's what I was just going to say. Thank you all for coming. I so appreciate it, and let me know if we can be of any help to you.